A third-year junior high school student named Nozaki plans to go home. When she's about to change her shoes in the locker, she finds that her shoes have disappeared. She immediately realizes that this is the work of the bullies who usually bother her. When her classmate, Aiba, comes, Nozaki chooses not to tell him anything. She already knows where the bullies go, to a forest with a hole in the ground. There, Nozaki is awaited by her 7 bullies, consisting of 4 girls and 3 boys, led by a short-haired girl named Teiko. She intends to take back her shoes that have been thrown into the hole, but she accidentally falls in, hitting her head on the mud. Even so, Nozaki can't do anything but accept their cruel treatment. After the incident, she goes home covered in dirt. Her family, who welcome her home, become very sad knowing that Nozaki is bullied again. Nozaki's father, who is also a teacher at her school, reports the incident to her homeroom teacher, Ms. Minami. Her father then finds out that Ms. Minami already knows that Nozaki often becomes a victim of bullying, but she seems not to care. Her reason is that the school will be closed at the end of the year, so she suggests that her father not make the issue worse. The next day in class, Nozaki becomes a bullying target again. On her desk, there's a threatening message that says, "Just die." Even when Nozaki is mocked in front of the class, Ms. Minami stays indifferent. Even though one of the bullies shouts at her, "Wow, she ignores us." Seeing this, Aiba becomes angry and tells them to stop bullying. But the bullies ignore him, and one of them almost fights Aiba, though is later cancelled. When Aiba calls Ms. Minami to step in, she finally responds. However, the situation triggers her trauma, causing her to vomit in the school hallway. The bullies even dare to attack Nozaki's father, kicking him until he gets injured. When Nozaki goes home from school and finds out about this, her parents suggest that she stop going to school for her own safety. Her father feels guilty for deciding to move to that area for his job as a teacher. But since Nozaki will soon graduate from junior high, they advise her to endure until graduation, then continue her high school education in Tokyo. One day, Nozaki gets sick and cannot go to school. This makes the bullies angry because they no longer have anyone to target. They then decide to send a girl named Rumi to visit Nozaki and make sure she comes to school the next day. If Rumi fails, they threaten to make her the next bullying target, including physical violence using nail boards. Rumi visits Nozaki's house. When she is in her room, she hears a song playing and likes it. She then asks to borrow the CD. While Nozaki is fetching it, Rumi secretly takes a photo of Nozaki with her phone to show the bullies. However, she gets caught. She finally confesses that she is ordered to make sure Nozaki comes to school tomorrow, or else she will become the next victim. But Nozaki firmly says that she will not go back to school. Hearing that, Rumi becomes resigned and indeed ends up getting bullied by the girls. The only thing she brings is the CD she borrows from Nozaki, which the bullies consider worthless. As a result, she is bullied and her hair is cut short by Teiko, who claims she wants to become a beautician in Tokyo. She then takes over the bullying. However, Rumi smiles, not because she is happy, but because she holds in the anger she cannot release. When asked whether she also hates Nozaki, with a terrifying and vengeful expression, she answers that she wants Nozaki to die. Meanwhile, Nozaki walks with her younger sister and meets Aiba, who is taking pictures of liver leaf flowers with his DSLR camera. Aiba likes photography, and on that occasion, he also takes pictures of Nozaki and her sister. From that moment, Nozaki and Aiba's friendship becomes closer, and they decide to go out together. Before leaving, Nozaki's sister gives her a clover-shaped necklace and says that she looks good with Aiba. While walking together, Aiba gathers his courage to hold Nozaki's hand, and Nozaki smiles in response. They enjoy their time by the riverside, as Aiba keeps taking pictures of her. However, after their walk, they meet 2 of Nozaki's bullies at night. The 2 bullies seem shocked when they see something from afar and immediately leave. When Nozaki turns to look in the same direction, she finds that her house is on fire. All of her family members are trapped inside. Aiba immediately runs in to save them, while the neighbors hold Nozaki back to stop her from entering. Shortly after, Aiba comes out, only managing to save Nozaki's younger sister, who is badly burnt. Nozaki becomes devastated and heartbroken. At the hospital, her grandfather comes to visit and tells her that her father protected her sister during the fire, allowing her to be rescued. Since their house burned down, Nozaki and her sister moved to their grandfather's house. Nozaki still cannot believe what happened. Sometime later, the bullies admit that they are the ones who burned down Nozaki's house and agree to hide it from the police. But two of the girls start feeling guilty and traumatized by what happened, causing tension among them. When snow starts to fall and Nozaki returns to school, she becomes very quiet. Aiba, who worries about her, asks what he can do to help, but he is shocked to realize that Nozaki loses her ability to speak because of deep trauma. When Nozaki tries to talk to the two girls who seem guilty, they avoid her. This makes another girl angry, and she decides to bully Nozaki again with her two friends. When they arrive at the location of the ground hole, one of them accidentally mentions the fire incident, revealing that the three of them are the culprits. However, one of them remains reckless and stabs Nozaki with a nail board until she falls into the hole. The girl who stabs her tells the other two to follow. She says that it is the first time she has seen someone die, and since then, she feels afraid of death. For the first time, she truly wants to live because she realizes how painful death is. As the bullying continues, Nozaki finds a long nail in the snow and stabs it into the girl's eye. She then takes a wooden stick, then beats her repeatedly until finally she dies. Nozaki turns into a terrifying figure and mercilessly kills the other two girls, even though one of them confesses that everything started from a plan made by one of the male bullies. After knowing that, Nozaki gives no mercy, and finally, all the bullies die. After the incident, rumors spread that the three girls had disappeared from their homes. The police then come to the school to investigate the case. One of the male bullies becomes panicked and decides to go straight home. However, on his way, he is confronted by Nozaki, who has now turned into a terrifying figure, ready to kill him like a psychopath. In the end, the boy becomes so frightened that he falls from a height. As a result of the incident, his leg is severely broken. Realizing that he will die slowly from bleeding, Nozaki decides to leave him behind in the snow. When she arrives home, half asleep, Nozaki is told by her grandfather that her school is closed due to the increasingly heavy snowfall. Not long after, Aiba comes to visit Nozaki and is informed that her grandfather will take her and her sister back to Tokyo. Because of that, Nozaki asks Aiba to stay there until her graduation. Meanwhile, at Rumi's house, she receives a phone call from the male bullies, who inform her that one of their friends has also gone missing. They are certain that all of this is Nozaki's doing. As revenge, they plan to visit her the next day. While looking at the liverleaf flowers, Nozaki suddenly realizes that an arrow is aimed at her head. Fortunately, the arrow misses. She immediately runs away from them, but one of the bullies, a fat boy, manages to catch her. The boy says that he has always liked Nozaki. However, soon after, his nose is stabbed by Nozaki with a pair of pliers, causing him to bleed. One of his friends tries to shoot Nozaki with an arrow, but unfortunately, it hits his own friend's head, and finally, he dies. Next, Nozaki brutally kills the archer with a crossbow until the weapon flies from his hand, and finally, he also dies. The disappearance of the boys makes their parents come to Ms. Minami to demand an explanation. Strangely, she laughs with joy, as if she is happy to know that the bullies are gone. This makes one of the parents furious, and she slaps her. The next day, Aiba visits Nozaki's house again and asks her to go for a walk. During that time, Aiba expresses how much he misses Nozaki before crying from emotional pressure. Nozaki tries to comfort him, and Aiba thanks her. They officially start a relationship. That night, Rumi goes to the place where the bullies used to torment Nozaki and finds the three dead girls that she has killed. Rumi immediately calls Teiko, but Teiko doesn't answer until the next morning. When the call is finally answered, Rumi tells her that Nozaki has killed their friends and that she's afraid she will be the next victim. Rumi suspects that Teiko is the one who causes all of this because she feels that Nozaki has taken Aiba away from her. The accusation is quickly denied by Teiko, but Rumi starts thinking about many things, including the possibility that Teiko once liked Nozaki, considering their closeness in the past. After hanging up, Rumi, who has secretly loved Teiko all this time, realizes that Teiko actually loves Nozaki. She tears up all the drawings of Teiko's face that she has drawn in her notebook as a sign of disappointment. Intending to talk properly with Nozaki, Teiko brings the CD belonging to Nozaki that she once found and goes to visit her house. After finding the house empty, she plans to return the CD through the mailbox, but she changes her mind. On her way back, she sees the bus that Nozaki is on and decides to give it to her directly. Since it has been a long time since they last talked, their conversation brings back old memories, where Nozaki remembers the beginning of her friendship with Teiko. At that time, Teiko is the first person to greet her, and they have fun together until Aiba's arrival separates them. Teiko is once thought to be jealous, but she denies it, even though she actually cannot forgive Nozaki for leaving her for Aiba. When she is about to leave, Nozaki says that she doesn't blame Teiko for her family's loss and asks her not to give up. Those words make Teiko realize her mistake. She returns and apologizes while kneeling. On her way home, Teiko realizes that someone is trying to harm her. It turns out to be Rumi, holding a knife. Rumi laughs like someone who has lost her sanity. Because she is obsessed with Teiko, she is willing to commit violence just to have her. It is then revealed that the idea of burning Nozaki's house actually comes from Rumi, who does it to get Teiko's attention. A physical fight breaks out between them, and finally, Rumi wins. She calls Teiko nothing more than a dirty carpet and leaves her in the snow. That night, Nozaki received a phone call from Aiba asking about her confirmed plan to move to Tokyo after graduation. After Nozaki confirms it, Aiba says that he also will not continue high school there, but will move to Tokyo together with Nozaki. This surprises Nozaki even more when Aiba says that he will find a place for them to live and work while studying. Feeling uncomfortable, Nozaki says that she cannot live with Aiba and chooses to live with her grandfather instead. This rejection deeply disappoints Aiba. He has always held a strong desire for Nozaki. Out of frustration, he destroys his phone, then vents his anger on his grandmother, injuring her badly. Aiba's grandmother realizes that his psychopathic behavior has reappeared since he stabbed his own father, something Aiba defends by saying that his father deserves it for often abusing his mother. From that moment, Aiba's dark side begins to emerge. Now he plans to visit Nozaki's grandfather to negotiate about Nozaki. The next day, Ms. Minami is again visited by more parents. One of them mentions her special relationship with Teiko, implying that she has lost her sanity. Another parent, who looks like a thug, says that he knows the teacher's past as a victim of bullying when she studied at the same school. He suspects that the trauma causes Ms. Minami's unstable behavior and her fear of her own students. Suddenly, Ms. Minami experiences hallucinations, hearing again the insults from her bullies in the past. She becomes hysterical and vomits, then runs away in shame until she falls in front of a building. She is shocked to see a snowplow in front of her. It seems that she gives up, allowing her body to be crushed by the snowplow, and finally, she dies. Meanwhile, Nozaki is on her way to the hospital to visit her sister. However, Rumi is already there, planning to take revenge because Nozaki has taken Teiko away from her. Rumi threatens to burn Nozaki's sister, but when she sees the girl wake up, Nozaki immediately attacks her. Suddenly, the heart monitor alarm goes off, and Rumi manages to escape. After the incident, Aiba comes to the hospital after receiving information from Nozaki's grandfather. However, he finds that Nozaki's grandfather has called an ambulance for himself and is now hospitalized. Seeing her grandfather's battered condition, Nozaki begins to suspect Aiba. She chases after him and asks about his hand, which is full of wounds from beating her grandfather. Aiba then confesses that he loves Nozaki deeply and that they both must live together forever. But Nozaki refuses his demand, just before Rumi appears beside them. At that moment, Nozaki finally begins to learn the full truth about the fire that destroyed her home. When Rumi is questioned by the bullies about her intention to kill Nozaki, she admits that she plans to pour oil over Nozaki's house with the intention of burning it down. She does this so she will no longer become a victim of bullying and also to gain Teiko's attention. Even though the other bullies take part in the plan, Teiko decides not to join, thinking that the act is childish and uninteresting. They then start pouring oil around Nozaki's house. When Nozaki's mother comes out, they even dare to splash the oil directly onto her body. At first, they intend to cancel the act. However, one of them threatens to return with a lighter. While talking to his friend, he doesn't realize that the lighter he holds is still lit until the fire catches the oil that has been poured. In an instant, the flames burn his hand, the mother's body, and the entire house. Soon after, Nozaki's father and younger sister arrive at the scene. The father immediately becomes the target of an arrow shot by one of the bullies, while Rumi pours more oil on them. Because of their brutality, the bullies don't realize how cruel their actions are. Rumi then, without hesitation, burns Nozaki's entire family alive, and finally, they all die. After learning this fact, Nozaki is filled with rage and tries to attack Rumi. However, Rumi has prepared herself with a knife and tries to stab Nozaki. Aiba quickly comes to defend Nozaki and throws his bag at Rumi. At that moment, Nozaki notices one of Aiba's photos, the photo of her father and sister burning. which he took when he entered Nozaki's house in an attempt to save them. Aiba keeps beating Rumi and finally stabs her neck with a wooden stick, and finally she dies. After showing a smile to Nozaki, he is shocked when Nozaki looks at the photo and starts questioning why Aiba takes pictures during the tragedy. Aiba explains that he is moved by the heroic act of Nozaki's father protecting his daughter, seeing it as a symbol of love and parental sacrifice. However, from Nozaki's perspective, Aiba looks like a psychopath. Rather than helping, he chooses to take pictures first. Hearing his explanation, Nozaki becomes furious and intends to kill Aiba. This causes Aiba's true personality to appear, and he begins to beat Nozaki brutally. Even so, Aiba doesn't kill her because he still loves her. Instead, he picks up his camera again and plans to take a photo of Nozaki in her wounded state. But his attention is distracted by the sight of blooming liver leaf flowers in front of him. Aiba then realizes that if he keeps letting Nozaki stay like that, she will die. Therefore, he gives Nozaki a chance to live, with one condition. Nozaki must promise to live together with him. While Aiba keeps talking, Nozaki feels something near her. It turns out to be the crossbow of the archer boy she has previously killed. Nozaki then grabs the weapon and shoots an arrow toward Aiba. The arrow pierces through the camera and strikes Aiba directly in the eye, and finally he dies. After the incident, Nozaki walks away from the scene and looks at the necklace that was once given by her younger sister before finally collapsing on the ground. The film Liverleaf ends with a middle school graduation ceremony, where Teiko receives her certificate, then visits the classroom she once shared with Nozaki, and finally, she reminisces about the days they spent together in that class. Watch other movie recaps by clicking on the screen on the left.